talking about the Grinch. But before we get into the video, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow me on all of my social media. Not because I want you to, but because I want to justify the little animation I made. Anyway, on to the video. Fuck, I need the books. In the early 2000s, there were two live-action movies based on classic children's books by Dr. Seuss. 2003's The Cat in the Hat, starring Michael Myers, and 2000's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, starring Jim Carrey. We're talking about this one today. The Grinch follows a very itchy green Jim Carrey who hates nothing more than Christmas. Instead of just going to bed and being visited by ghosts, however, the Grinch decides to go down to Whoville and steal all of their presents. Both this and the previously mentioned Cat in the Hat were both produced by Imagine Entertainment, but were actually distributed by two separate companies. This is because the rights to Seuss's films were sold separately instead of to just one company, and the requirements to even purchase the rights were very strict. For The Grinch specifically, Seuss's widow Audrey stated that the movie would have to be starring someone with, quote, comparable stature to Jack Nicholson, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and Dustin Hoffman, and would have to be directed by someone who had earned at least $1 million making previous films. At one point, Fox had pitched a script with Jack Nicholson slated to play the Grinch. However, that never came to fruition. As much as I love the version we ended up getting, spoiler alert, I kind of like this movie. I would have killed to see Jack Nicholson playing the Grinch. The version we did get, however, was released on November 17th, 2000 to mixed reviews, criticizing the overall tone and characters, whilst praising the score, the performance from Carrey as the Grinch, and the special effects. Personally, I loved this movie growing up and would watch the copy that my mom had recorded off the TV for hours around the holidays, much to my father's dismay. My dad never outright said that he hated this version. However, when brought up, he would always state that the original adaptation from 1966 was still better. I would still watch this movie years afterwards, however, only slowing down as my interests shifted to more critically acclaimed holiday movies. How does one of my favorite childhood Christmas movies hold up now? Let's take a look. What the fuck, Pop Secret? Look at this abysmal fucking shit. It doesn't even cover up my fucking rag. This is all the popcorn we have in the house. Yeah, you can see, like, the rag. What the fuck, Pop Secret? Like, that, it could be me, because there's, like, a shit ton of kernels. Holy fuck, yeah, there's a shit ton of kernels. How does one of my favorite childhood Christmas movies hold up now? Let's take a look. The movie starts off by reminding us of the fact that Whoville is actually a microscopic town that, in this movie, is found inside of a snowflake.
The small town of Whoville, the home of the Whos.
Weirdly enough, despite watching this movie so many times as a child, I wasn't aware of this until I read Horton Hears a Who when I was like 6. And like, even now, to be honest, I forget about this intro immediately after it happens, so yeah. We soon see that the Christmas celebration has already begun for Whoville, with a marching band parading through the streets, Who's decorating the large tree in the middle of town, and of course, every retail worker's bane, Christmas shopping.
Merry Christmas! Thank you for shopping for me. Wait a second! Don't forget to change!
The movie gives us our first look at Cindy Lou Who and her father, Lou Who. Before changing gears and talking about the one who doesn't like Christmas, Jesus, the Grinch. After panning toward Mount Crumpet, we see Cindy's two brothers, Stu and Drew Lou Who. This movie is going to give me an aneurysm. Stu and Drew bring their girlfriends, Christina and Junie, up to Mount Crumpet to find mistletoe, whilst proceeding to make fun of them for being scared of the Grinch. 4 of them accidentally come across the Grinch's front door, and Christina convinces Stu to touch it.
Come on, touch it. Touch the door. Do it for me, Stu.
I can't see any negative consequences of touching the door of a supposed monster. To be fair, I can't see any positives either. Stu reaches out to touch the door and is immediately scared off by a giant roaring Grinch head being piloted by everyone's favorite garbage dog, Max. I like how all the citizens of Whoville are a species that resemble humans, just with, more pronounced noses and buck teeth, and then Max is just a normal dog. And he has been since the beginning. I don't know, I think that's funny. After the teens go tumbling down the mountain, we get our first look at Jim Carrey's Grinch eating rotten food from the Who's garbage. Charming. The Grinch has Max fetch his coat as he plots to travel down to Whoville and pay everyone a visit. The Grinch disguises himself in a cloak and mask, and with Max in tow, proceeds to terrorize the townspeople. Attacking the Who's aside, the Grinch wearing a Who mask over his Grinch face reminds me of Sting in WCW wearing a Sting mask over his face paint. It's not a one-to-one recreation, but it still reminds me of it, and I don't know. As Cindy starts questioning how over-the-top everyone's Christmas celebrations are, Drew and Stu bust in and alert the whole town they have found the Grinch! Whilst chaos ensues, we are introduced to the main antagonist of the film, Mayor Augustus Mayhew.
Someone just say, Grinch.
The mayor scolds Lou about his son's antics to a hushed crowd, and this town is a cult. The entire town were all so quiet when the mayor started talking about Christmas, and he talked about it as if anything less than perfect would mean the end of the world. Whoville is a cult. Augustus Mayhew is their messiah, and they worship Santa Claus. Anyway, Lou assures the mayor that his sons didn't actually see the Grinch, and that
I think they were just up on the mountain playing with matches or defacing public property or...
Oh, well, that's a relief.
I'm watching you, Mayhew. I had better not start rhyming, I swear to God. We cut to Lou working at the post office and Cindy asking why nobody wants to talk about the Grinch. Lou explains that the reason why they don't talk about the Grinch is his disdain for Christmas.
A what?
Exactly, honey. And he's a what who doesn't like Christmas.
So he was shunned. I see you. On the other side of the mailboxes, we have the Grinch taking everyone's mail and putting them in the wrong boxes. We also see him giving everybody
jury duty, blackmail, pink slip, chain letter, eviction notice.
Okay, maybe the Who's have a point. Lou asks Cindy to bring some mail into the back room and tells her to be careful of the sorting machine. So she falls into the sorting machine after being scared by the Grinch.
The Grinch!
I'm sorry. I love this scene, especially when you notice the fact that Max does not give a shit. Like, at all. Well, apparently Max cares about something as he convinces the Grinch to save Cindy, which he does before covering her head to toe in wrapping paper. Lou finds Cindy and praises her on practicing her rapping, whilst the Grinch goes on his not-so-merry way. We have a scene introducing Cindy's mother, Betty Lou Who, as well as romantic interest for both the mayor and the Grinch, Martha May Whoville. This scene sets up a small bit of subplot as Betty and Martha are both competing to see who has the best Christmas lights. After showing the Grinch return to the trash heap on Mount Crumpet, we get Cindy's rendition of Where Are You Christmas, showing that the Christmas spirit has been lost on her. Back over to the Grinch and we get a nice look at how the man lives, a reminder that his heart is 2 sizes too small, and finally, the exchange that I would annoy my parents with.
Hello! Hello! How are you? How are you?
I'm an idiot.
You're an idiot! That gets back to me. I won't be able to hear it.
You're an idiot.
Up next, we have the Grinch's origin story as Cindy Lou interviews the townsfolk on how the Grinch came to be. One little thing I'd like to bring up is, why is Cindy recording this? Like, she didn't do anything with the recording. What's the point? After a brief explanation on how baby Who's are born, the Grinch's mothers revealed that he arrived on Christmas Eve during their holiday get-together. If you're at a holiday-themed key party, and Better Do It Right by Smash Mouth isn't playing, then what's even the point? Probably sex with strangers now that I think about it. The Grinch didn't end up getting discovered until the next morning, however, because, sex with strangers. Until the next morning when his two mothers brought him in and tried to get him to eat a Christmas cookie when he'd rather take a bite out of the Santa plate.
Santa, bye-bye.
Jumping forward 8 years, we start to see the other Who's perspectives, namely Augustus and Martha's, and learn that the Grinch was actually bullied by Augustus while they were in school because they both had a crush on Martha May. After Augustus tells the Grinch,
You don't have a chance with her. You're 8 years old and you have a beard.
the Grinch goes home and makes Martha an angel for her Christmas tree and decides to shave for good measure. The next day in school, the Grinch gives Martha her gift while sporting a paper bag on his head. After being told to remove the bag, along with multiple other things the Grinch was using to hide his face, it's revealed that he cut himself while shaving, making the whole class laugh, save for Martha. The Grinch, filled with rage and embarrassment, throws the angel he made across the room as well as the class Christmas tree, and runs off to Mount Crumpet, where he stayed for years after the fact. Back to the present day, and the Whobilation has begun, with the mayor looking for nominations for this year's Holiday Cheermeister. The fuck, Seuss?
Do I hear a nomination?
Ooh, I wonder who it's gonna be. I'm hoping it's... Sexy Whoville Nurse Uncredited. Or Yodeler. When asking for nominations, Cindy is quick to chime in and nominate the Grinch, much to everyone's surprise. The mayor uses scripture from the Book of Who to explain that Christmas and the Grinch don't go well together, with Cindy going back with a verse of her own stating that they should welcome the Grinch regardless. Mayhew then hastily makes up a verse to try and save his point, as the whole anti-Grinch agenda starts to crumble around him. Cindy gives a final speech on how the Grinch needs the support of Whoville the most, with the whole town getting on her side in the process. The mayor reluctantly allows the Grinch to be nominated, stating that he won't end up coming down anyway. Wait, why was there anti-Grinch propaganda in the Book of Who? Sounds kind of culty. Meanwhile, as the people of Whoville start celebrating, the Grinch sits at home trying to drown them out. Cindy shows up on his doorstep to let him know of his nomination, coming through the doggy door and walking in on the Grinch, getting his head smashed in by a monkey playing the cymbals.
Excuse me.
The Grinch tries and fails to frighten her.
Run for your life before I kill again!
Alright, let's see why some people despise this movie. Cindy invites the Grinch to be Holiday Cheermeister, which he denies at first, before hearing that there's an award, and instantly hops on board. After an admittedly amusing scene of the Grinch going back and forth on whether or not he's going to go, Max pulls the rope and sends him down the chute himself. The Grinch goes flying out of the chute, landing right between... Okay. Sure. The Grinch is reunited with his mothers, and the festivities begin, with pudding, fruitcake, and fudge cook-offs, conga lines, and much more as the Grinch actually starts to enjoy himself. This is short-lived, however, as during the gift exchange, the mayor gives the Grinch an electric razor, reminding him of why he left Whoville in the first place. Mayhew then tries to usurp the Grinch's moment with a proposal to Martha that includes
A new car! Generously provided by the taxpayers of Whoville!
wow, the ball's on Mayhew to try and groom two people at the same time. As Martha struggles to find an answer for the mayor, the Grinch goes into an anti-materialistic speech before wreaking havoc on the whole town. This is definitely one of the more fun scenes of the movie, as you get the symphony of comedic destruction paired with Jim Carrey being, well, Jim Carrey.
Taxi! It's because I'm green, isn't it?
After the destruction, we have the mayor publicly shaming Cindy, because of course he did, the monster, before everyone gets to fixing up the town, complete with a new tree, just as the Grinch is leaving. The Grinch, now back home, has a mental breakdown about Christmas before throwing Max into the snow for dancing to Christmas music. Fair. And getting the idea to dress as Santa and steal all of the Who's presents. We have a building montage set to a cover of the original film's You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, that I can't decide on whether I like or not.
Your brain is full of spiders, you got Gallagher's soul.
Never mind, I don't. After dressing Max up as a reindeer and doing a beautiful Spielberg impression, the Grinch makes his way down to Whoville and starts on his quest to steal all of Whoville's presents. The scene is definitely the one that most closely resembles the original story, with most of the lines being directly taken from the book itself, especially those by the narrator.
Then he slunk to the icebox.
Slunk?
This was also coincidentally my favorite part growing up, as I loved seeing the montage of the Grinch creatively stealing all of the— Okay, cool. Thanks, I wanted to see that. The Grinch finishes up his crusade against Christmas and makes his way back up to Mount Crumpet, being towed by Max. The whole town then wakes up without their presents and comes out to the town square to get publicly shamed by the mayor for following Cindy's lead instead of his.
Invite the Grinch! Destroy Christmas!
Lou finally sticks up for his daughter here, agreeing that Christmas isn't about presents, and instead is about spending time with those that you love. Cindy is then inspired to go visit the Grinch, who is busy getting ready to dump the sleigh off the mountain. The Grinch, in the middle of pushing his sleigh, hears the Who's singing, and just like in the original book, learns the true meaning of Christmas as his heart grows 3 whole sizes, killing him in the process. I'm kidding, of course. The Grinch has an emotional moment before seeing that the sleigh is about to fall off the mountain.
Oh no, the sleigh, the presents, they'll be destroyed. And I care! What is the deal?
The Grinch tries to stop the sleigh from falling to no avail until he sees Cindy on top of all the presents and, through an amazing feat of strength, lifts the sleigh above his head. The Grinch, Cindy, and Max all make their way down the mountain, losing their brakes in the process.
We're gonna crash!
Now you listen to me, young lady. Even if we're horribly mangled, there'll be no sad faces on Christmas.
That's the spirit. Wait. Martha, Betty, and Lou work together to stop the sleigh from crashing and succeed before the mayor attempts and fails to get the Grinch arrested for his actions and soon has his engagement broken off because Martha loves the Grinch. We have a nice little conclusion with all the townsfolk joining together in song and having a nice big Christmas dinner with the Grinch in his cave where he carves the roast beast. You don't need me to tell you this movie isn't all that good. I mean, you just have to take one look at Rotten Tomatoes and it's not as bad as I thought it was. I mean, it's not good, but it could be a lot worse. As I was saying, you don't need me to tell you this isn't a good movie, because it's not. It's a mess from start to finish, and it's no wonder why critics hate this movie. However, I would never say this film isn't enjoyable. I love bad movies like The Room and Troll 2, and while I'm in no way implying that this movie reaches the same levels of so bad it's good that those ones do, it definitely deserves to be in that category. And on top of that, I'd still consider it one of my favorite Christmas movies. Sure, there's a lot of better Christmas movies out there, but as of late, there's very few good ones being made. There are only 2 Christmas movies that came out in the past 20 years that had an actual lasting impression on me. Those movies, of course, were Will Ferrell's Elf and The Grinch. I bet you if you went up and asked anyone to talk about How the Grinch Stole Christmas or Fred Claus starring Vince Vaughn, they'd have a lot more to say about the Grinch. So yeah, this movie's bad, but a lot of people still find enjoyment out of it, and really that's all that matters. That, and helping the Whos recover from the cult that they were in for God knows how long. Anyway, take care.